Hello, BookTube. Who's up for a little bit of mail? On this bright winter Wednesday, I want to say it's chilly, but how can I do that? How can I say it's chilly when 2/3 of the country is plunged into the Arctic vortex? Those of you who maybe don't live in America and aren't up on the news, the middle part of America is colder than Antarctica. In fact, as you've seen all over social media, it's colder than Mars. It's colder than the same equivalent of Mars. -45, -50, -57 degrees below zero. Those are unthinkable temperatures, just unthinkable. And it harks me back to when New England got a taste of a polar vortex, and it was pretty bad. It wasn't that bad, but it was pretty bad. And it changes everything. Something I imagine quite a few of you are in the polar vortex as we speak, and it changes everything. When all of a sudden you can't go outside, effectively, you can't go outside. You certainly can't take your dog for a walk. You'd be crazy to go for a run, although people do, and then they go to the emergency room. But in large parts of the American Midwest and upper Midwest, mail delivery has been canceled. It's that cold. So I can't say that it's chilly. So I'll just say it's a bright winter day here in Boston. And we've got some mail, so we'll go through and we'll see what we can find. What's of interest and what's not. I love doing this. I love sharing my mail with you. And you don't seem to mind, so we'll just do that. Okay. First one is from early February. This is a book that we saw already. We saw this already. This is The Made-Up Man by Joseph Scapolato, and we've got the dust jacket here. Will give us the author. That is what the author looks like. And the pub sheet is all blurbs, so we're going to have to go to the book itself to find out, for me to tell you what it's about. Stanley, archaeology student dropout, marriage proposal botcher, unwitting lost soul, knows it's a mistake to accept his Uncle Lek's apartment-sitting gig in Prague. He knows it's one of Lek's proposals, a thinly veiled setup for invasive, potentially dangerous performance art. But whatever Lek has planned, it's worth it, if only to get Stanley to Prague for a chance to make things right with tea. So Stanley vows to ignore Lek's hijinks. He'll step over the chalk body outlines in the hallway, throw away the envelopes slipped under the door, and dodge the strangers tailing him in the streets. But Lek and his minions may know more about Stanley than he knows about himself, and when a man made up to look like Stanley enacts his most devastating memory, he won't be able to stand outside this imitation of his life any longer. And that sounded intriguing to me. I have had the advanced copy. I think we saw it on this channel, and shamefully, I have not got to it. But that's the purpose of these February finished copies, is that I'm reading like the Dickens. And that's just going to continue. I want to make huge inroads on the year. So let's see what this next one is. Oh my! Oh goodness gracious! Okay, This is going to be a paperback original, and it comes out again in early February. This is by Giacomo Sartori, and it's translated by Frederica Randall, and it's I Am God, with a sparkly cover. Let's see here. I am God. Have been forever, will be forever. Forever, mind you, with a razor-sharp glint of a diamond, and without any counterpart in the languages of men. So begins God's diary of the existential crisis that ensues when, inexplicably, he falls in love with a human. And not just any human, but a geneticist and fanatical atheist who's certain she can improve upon the magnificent creation she doesn't even give him credit for. It's frustrating for a god. God has infinitely bigger things to occupy his celestial attentions, yet he can't tear his eyes, so to speak, from the geneticist who unsettlingly avid when it comes to science, sex, and Sicilian cannoli. Whatever happens, he must safeguard his transcendental dignity, so he watches, disinterestedly, of course, as the handsome climatologist who has his sights set on her keeps having strange accidents. And as the lanky geneticist becomes hell-bent on infiltrating the Vatican's secret files for reasons of her own. All right. Well, inexplicably God falls in love. I guess that is a rather fatalistic view of the New Testament, isn't it? It implies that God was not in love with a certain Nazarene girl. He just had other things in mind for her. I love it. I am a big fan of what we, I guess for want of a better word, we'll call Judeo-Christian pastiche fiction. I absolutely love stuff like that. I read it all the time. Have many examples of it that are, I think, completely first rate. We'll see if this one is. I'm leery about we're reading a translation, especially something I can read the original, but I'll give it a try and see. It'll only be in cases like this. It's only usually if I get a third of the way in and I feel like, okay, just from the bare bones of what I'm reading here, I get the sense that the author knows what they're doing, but you, the translator, are dropping the ball. I can tell you are. It's hard to describe, but about a third of the way in is usually as far as I need to go in a book before I will either have that feeling or I will not. And if I have that feeling, I feel like I am doing the author of the book a disservice to continue reading. Because the translation might give me a bad impression. And it's hard to shake a bad first impression of a book. So usually what I do, as extravagant as it is, usually what I do, if that happens, is I will stop reading and somehow acquire the original language book. If I can read it, I will somehow do that, whether it's through the publicist or through the publicist of the original publisher, in Italy in this case, or whatever. Or maybe get somebody to get the author to give me a file or something like that. Usually that's what I'll do. I will go around the translation, and that's just to get a sense of the book. Then usually I will return to the translation because, of course, if I'm going to review the book, I'm going to review the translation. So I'm going to need to know what I'm talking about. I'm going to need to talk about that, as I'm going to have to read the whole thing. But I don't want that to be my first impression. So we shall see. It could be that, who we have here? Frederica Randall. It could be that she does a wonderful job. So we shall see. All right, let's move on. What is next here? All right. Next one is also a paperback original. Also comes out in February. Can't help but take it a little personally. This is by John Warner, and it's called The Writer's Practice: Building Confidence in Your Nonfiction Writing. You trying to tell me something, John Warner? Who are you when you're at home? He has more than 20 years' experience teaching college-level writing, working with a range of students on developmental writing through graduate-level studies. So do I. He has taught many different types of writing, from composition, fiction, and narrative nonfiction to technical and humor writing. So have I. A contributing writer for Inside Higher Ed, he's become a national voice on writing pedagogy and writes a weekly column on books and reading for the Chicago Tribune. Oh, there he beats me, all hollow. Oh, what I wouldn't give for a weekly column. Oh, what I wouldn't give for a weekly column. And a weekly column in the Trib. Oh. Okay. Well, anyway, all right, so he's credentialed. I have a fair amount of confidence in my own nonfiction writing. Thank you very much. I have 100,000 readers who agree that it's warranted. But what have we got here? What is he going to tell us? Over 2 decades teaching college-level writing following the most established and well-regarded practices, writer, editor, and educator John Warner knew he could do better. In this book, do you mind? I can barely hear myself think over you destroying things. Bean, I just reprimanded you. In this book, he engages students and novice writers in an active learning process that prepares them for a wider range of academic and real-world writing. Sorry. It's a very big difference going from a Basset who never voluntarily moved to a little peanut who never voluntarily stops. Except in the mornings. Those of you who follow me on Instagram, my little baby's not a morning person. She doesn't like mornings at all. She takes a long time to get going. Once she gets going, she's going for the rest of the day, but she takes a long time to get there. She is very fond in the mornings of stretching and yawning, of getting up on one elbow and thinking maybe, and then flopping back down and going to sleep for another hour. She's very fond of that. I love it. Okay, well, this is a writing manual that I know, I don't mean to sound snotty, but this is a writing manual that I suspect I do not need. I will read it anyway. You never know what you're going to find in things like this. But I have been writing nonfiction without a net for an audience for a long time. So I think if there were any problems, I would already have been told about it. But let's see. Let's move on. What is this next one? Okay. All right. Okay, this is Steve's happy face. This comes out in May. This is by David Rigby, and it is called Wade McCluskey and the Battle of Midway. And it's a Midway book. Rare is the man whose actions determine the course of a major battle. In 1942, at Midway, Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey was that man. This book shows how McCluskey proved himself to be one of the greatest pilots and combat leaders in history, a true American hero, the one whose story has never been told until now. Okay, that's how a pub sheet should be written. Fantastic. I'm on board. I would be on board anyway. But the reason why Steve is particularly happy about this book, I mean, it's a World War II history. It's going to cover a lot of ground. I'm sure that this author has consulted all sorts of stuff that other people have ignored or not known existed. And written a whole book about something that is less than a footnote, even in histories of the Pacific Theater. You know, the thing that makes Steve happy? This is an Osprey book. Osprey is a fantastic military history publisher that has never sent me anything. They've never sent me anything before. And here... Very nice. So, yes, Wade McCluskey and the Battle of Midway. That's fantastic. And come May, I will review it. But I'd be willing to bet that Osprey's catalog for the spring has one or two other items Steve might like. and now Steve can legitimately request them. So, let's move on. Let's move on. That's very good. All right, what do we got here? Oh, good. Very good. Okay, this is another February book. Good Lord. This is the finished copy of Hot Protestants. This is Michael Winship. Begun in the mid-16th century by Protestant nonconformists keen to reform England's church and society while saving their own souls, the Puritan movement was a major catalyst in the great cultural changes that transformed the early modern world. And this book traces Puritanism's tumultuous history from its initial attempts to reshape the Church of England to its establishment of godly republics in both England and America, and its demise at the end of the 17th century. And this is the finished copy. I have had this. Ooh, I know this is just a familiar refrain. I am getting to these things. I am. I don't think we've hit a book yet in this mail haul. Excuse me. I don't think we've hit a book yet in this mail haul, and I won't read this week. But I haven't read it yet. I haven't read my copy yet. So let's see. Let's just move on here. You are making a mess, little bean. A mess. You're lucky they all like you. Fantastic. Okay. This is also May. This is an advanced copy of Alan Lurie's new book, the new Lurie book, Much Ado About Lurie. These are Dewey Lambden's Napoleonic-era historical novels about the character Alan Lurie. And they've been going on forever. I don't think there's a uniform edition of them. The first few of them came out in mass market paperbacks 25, 30 years ago. And then they stopped coming out. Then some of them came out, but some of them didn't. And I don't know how many of the backlist is in print. The Lurie back canon is a mess. And it's also huge. How many of this? This is an Alan Lurie adventure. There have been 25 of these, something like that. They are terrific. Absolutely terrific. They are Horatio Hornblower only done for laughs. Although, boy oh boy, when Dewey Lambden wants to give you a dramatic climax, a hero and a villain, sword fighting in the surf, something like that, then it gets completely serious and is absolutely gripping. These are terrific. Absolutely terrific books. And a welcome glint of sarcasm and humor in the Napoleonic era historical novel ranks, which usually don't have it. That's what made the Aubrey and Maturin books by Patrick O'Brien. That's what made them so enjoyable, is that there was quite a bit of humor woven throughout them. But you had to look hard for it. Here it's more slapsticky. These are terrific books. I'm so happy to have the new one. That's wonderful. All right, let's move on here. You can't hear me anyway, so it doesn't matter. Oh, no. Okay. All right, this is a double of When You Read This. We saw this already. This is a modern-day epistolary novel. So we don't need to dwell on that. That's just a double. That happens. let's move on here. What is this next one? A couple of you have commented that she seems to enjoy mail hauls even more than I do. I think that's probably true. Okay, so this next one is a novel. It could be that it's another historical novel in a year that was crowded with them. But this is, I did not know this was coming. This is My Coney Island Baby by Billy O'Callaghan. And I'm told that he is one of the most admired and highly praised young writers working today. He is the author of several short story collections that have won him considerable acclaim and prestigious awards. The Things We Lose, The Things We Leave Behind. Okay, what else? In Exile, In Too Deep, The Things We Lose, The Things We Leave Behind, and a novel called The Dead House. And this is the author's first literary novel. I don't know what The Dead House was then. Maybe a thriller of some kind. An intimate and beautifully written tale reminiscent of the works of William Trevor. Okay. It tells the story of Michael and Caitlin, two middle-aged lovers who meet on a bitterly cold winter's afternoon to keep an illicit date. Once a month for the past quarter century, Coney Island has been their haven, the place in which they have abandoned themselves to their love. The novel unfolds over the course of one of these beautifully, carefully rationed days that have long sustained Michael and Caitlin's love. Oh, so the novel takes place over one day. Okay. All right, this comes out in early April. And it sounds like Coney Island is going to be a major player in the book. Coney Island would be difficult for me to describe, to explain to those of you who are not American. It's, for Pete's sake, it's difficult to explain for those of you who are American. So I'm not going to attempt it. And then, oh no, we've got to the end. We're finally at the end of this mail haul, but you could barely hear me. We have a cardboard container here. Oh, goodness. Oh my, okay. This is a paperback of Paul Goldberg's The Chateau, with a much better cover for the paperback than existed for the hardcover. This is a wonderful, wonderful novel about fathers and sons, about Trump in a way, but in a good way, in a way that makes it work for the book, and about the skullduggery that's going on in a retirement complex that's being ferreted out by one feisty older senior citizen. And this is the paperback. The paperback comes out in this lovely... This is a case where the hardcover had some weird funhouse mirror cover, the main detail of which I'm sure that the cover designer and the cover artist were so caught up in their work that they failed to realize that the main detail of the hardcover cover was a male butt. A male fanny just staring right out at you at eye level. This is much better. Much, much better. And this is one of those rare things. Those of you who read Paul Goldberg's The Yid, a just terrific novel, those of you who read that book will know what to expect from this author. He's a little surreal, razor sharp with dialogue, and he knows how to end a book. He knows that books don't just stop. They have to have a climax. They have to have an ending. It has to satisfy in some way or other. And as satisfying as the ending of The Yid was, the ending of this is even better. Just amazing. Bring a tear to your eye. And this paperback has blurbs all over it. Of course, that's what paperbacks are for. And I naturally hungrily looked at it, looking for a blurb of my own, because I loved this book and wrote a very good review of it, if I do say so myself. I'll leave a link to it down below. But although the cover sheet is covered in blurbs, yours truly is not on there. Everybody else, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette is on here. Washington Book Review. Entertainment Weekly. David Canfield, our old friend from Entertainment Weekly, is in here. The Forward, The Reporter, The Tablet. And also somebody named Sam Sachs from the Wall Street Journal. What's he have to say? Sounds kind of boring. Paul Goldberg's novel The Chateau concerns the criminal underbelly of a South Florida retirement community, a premise so superbly batty that it's hard to believe it hasn't already been claimed by the slicks at HBO or Showtime. If the style of the Chateau is old-fashioned, its story is up to the minute. The action is set in the week before the inauguration of Melchior. Melchior is the main character's father. His idol, Donald Trump. Mr. Goldberg has written a funny, antic novel for the masochists who don't get their full of political farce from cable news. In other words, alas, for all of us. I have a feeling that before too long, that Sam Sachs character is going to require the Harold Bloom voice. There's a problem with people like him and Harold Bloom. You just spend your whole life getting smarter and smarter. What are you going to be at the end of it? You're going to make the rest of us look bad. And, of course, the salt in the wound when it comes to blurbs for this book is the very first one. The New York Times book review was written by Kathleen Sheen. Kathleen Sheen is responsible not only for a string of horrible novels, but also for the single worst piece of fiction ever written. Ever. East or West, all the way back to Tale of Genji. The single worst book ever written. And she's the author of it. Single worst novel ever written. But who did the Times go to when they needed to review this? They went to her. To be fair, I'd already written my review and they wouldn't come to me anyway. But still, I was kind of hoping that I would show up on the paperback of this, and I did not. And that's all right. Them's is the breaks. So this comes out in late February. It'll be, what, $16? No, it'll be $20. Okay, that number's inching up, isn't it? We're in no time at all, these things are going to be $35. And hardcovers will be $70. No time at all. This just should not cost you $20. But nevertheless, it gives the book another shot at an audience, I guess. If you've got $20 to spare, you will enjoy this novel. The price is criminal. So there you go. That is our mail haul, complete with apocalyptic noise from the bean, who's licking her lips because she's got eaten her weight in cardboard. Actually, that's not true. She tears paper and cardboard to pieces, but she doesn't eat it. I don't have to worry about any of those things with her. I don't have to worry about her getting trapped in cul-de-sacs. I don't have to worry about her forgetting not to chew electrical wires. I don't have to worry about her eating something that's hard and metal. All that stuff that's counterintuitive, that a normal dog, you shouldn't have to worry about them doing. I had to worry about Lucy doing all of that, and more. Because she was special. Frida is not quite that way. She doesn't need looking after that way. She's not going to do anything that's going to hurt her. She's not going to do it to herself. I don't need to worry about it. I have only to protect her from things that are outside of her doggish ken. Protect her from traffic, that sort of thing. Although I wouldn't be surprised if this dog already understands traffic. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Frida will figure it out. I have a few mantras in life the brattle will provide, and Frida will figure it out is one of those mantras. She doesn't need much in the way of instruction. Quite a difference from a big, fat, gassy basset hound. But anyway, I have now a floor that is littered with just a pile of garbage that I have to clean up. But we'll do a pyramid. So we've got Hot Protestants. We've got Wade McCluskey in the Battle of Midway, and we've also got Osprey Books. We've got Dewey Lambden, Much Ado About Lurie, and a new Alan Lurie novel is always a cause for joy. We've got My Coney Island Baby, a piece of fiction. There's quite a lot of fiction in this one. We've got When You Read This, a modern epistolary novel, and a double. We've got The Made Up Man, about a man who gets caught in the performance art duplication of his own life. That's kind of fascinating. We've got I Am God in an English language translation, which is just what the title says. We have The Writer's Practice, about how to up your game writing nonfiction. And we've got The Chateau by Paul Goldberg with a beautiful cover in paperback instead of the lamentable hardcover cover. And it's as you all know from watching this channel, when I get a trade paperback, I reread the book one last time. So I read the advance copy for first impressions right away, quick. Then I wait, and when I get the finished copy, I read it with a pencil and a critical eye. And then a year or two passes, and I get the paperback, and I read it one last time. No pencil, no nothing. Just a sort of one last nail down of the book. until I see it again somewhere down the line, but not anytime soon. So it's going to be great fun to reread the Chateau. And there you go. That is a mail haul on a day that I am not going to call chilly. Thank you, Book 2.